12 years next week.
12 years next week.
Yep, 6th of April.
Fuck, we'll start on that note. 12 years next week. Mr. Seán Kinane, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being here. I'm after having a little mini brain fart there. Appreciate you coming back. For anybody who doesn't know, Sean's been on 3 times?
This is now the 4th.
Is this the 4th time?
Yeah.
The 4th time. And I tell the story every time you're on, but it's so funny because I remember the first time we spoke, I was like, what am I going to talk to this fella about? VO2 Max for more than 20 minutes, like, and here we are, how many years later? 2 years later, 4 episodes in. This is the 4th episode. But 12 years as Health Matters.
12 years as Health Matters next Thursday.
Next
6th
Thursday.
of April.
So by the time this episode goes out in 2 weeks, it will just have gone by. So happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
How are things going with Health Matters?
Never been better. Ever. So I always say I'm busy, but like I can't express.
I'm going to have to look at the camera for this one because this man, when he says the word busy, I can't express how insane the growth has been, even since I've known you, which is only a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, it's manic. Like if we go back in time, I'll give you the best example. Year 1, I did 253 tests in 1 year. Last week, I did 177 tests. So
It's outrageous.
And that's while running the background of the business as well, you know. So Keelan, who works for me, said he laughed at me one day recently. I was working on my computer, I was on the phone on my AirPods, and I was looking at my watch reading another message that had come in. And he's just like, how do you do it, you know? I love it. I absolutely love it. It's busy though. It's very busy. Bookings from now, April's pretty much full. Weekends are full till June. May, if I didn't get another booking for May, it would be a very successful month.
Really?
Yeah, that's how far we're in advance. So November 22 was the best month I ever had. February 23 beat it. March 23 beat it. Biggest week I've ever done last week. And it's just getting bigger and bigger and better and faster and stronger. And I love it more probably than I ever did.
Yeah, I can vouch for that because whenever I'm over when we're shooting content, the Apple Watch is going off, the phone's going off, Keelan's popping his head in, you're shouting at someone down the way there, there's tests going on. It's crazy, like, fair play to you.
Yeah, like it's, I don't know, people are like, how do you not? I never, ever, I don't get stressed. That's probably wrong. Of course I get stressed, but I deal with it very well. I don't ever get down about it. I never get freaked out about it. And as I've said many times, I can only control the controllable. So what's put in front of me, take it step by step. Yeah. Deal with it as it comes at me and go from there. But I enjoy it. I love it. And one thing that I don't like doing is now telling people they have to wait so long for tests. So
yeah. But you've got people coming on. You've got Keelan there now and starting to grow and expand. For anybody who still might not know what we're talking about here, who hasn't listened to the last few episodes, what is it that you do exactly? What are these tests you're talking about?
So I run a company called Health Matters. We're a sports performance company. So we do metabolic and VO2 analysis. That's predominantly what we do. I'm now a practicing nutritional therapist. We have Alana doing online sports nutrition consultations. That's also an exclusive just released because we're working in the background on that. So that's ready to go live as well.
Love it.
So Alana used to test with us, but she's now kind of going to be online doing performance nutrition, which I think is a massive undervalued aspect of performance. But basically what I do is I take a body and break them down physiologically and with their strengths and weaknesses, what they're missing out on, and basically optimize performance by changing calorie input, the way they train, how they train, why they train.
Yeah. It's funny, and I'm going to press go here because I forgot to press go. We're going to be here all day otherwise. It's funny that you are now getting into the role of not prescription, but helping people with the programming for nutrition and stuff like that, because it's the most common question I get about you is not, do you do the testing? It's, can he help me with the training or the nutrition or whatever afterwards? And I'm like, they're getting there.
Yeah, like it's kind of know your role. Know your role, but I like working with others. I like working with coaches. I like telling people, and what I say to clients when they come in is like, look, I'm going to give you the education you need to take your training or your goal to the next level, but deliver it consistently.
Yeah.
I don't want you to achieve weight loss in 6 weeks and then put it back on. I want you in a year's time to say, Seán, I've never felt better, I've never moved better, I've never slept better, my relationships have never been better, and my performances are great. You know, it's consistency in what I try and do. And like last night I had 2 girls in and they came in for metabolic and VO2 testing together. They're in the gym, one of them's trying to lose weight, one of them wants to take up running, and I got lost. Like I spent so much time with them. I got so excited about what I think that they can potentially do. I got an email off them last night, both of them thanking me for my time and my delivery of education and how happy and excited they are for the journey, because they would have been doing everything the wrong way. Like, i.e. one of them wanted to lose weight, so eat as little as possible, move as much as possible. Sure, that's going to result in failure straight off the bat.
Yeah.
You know, so just educating and instilling the belief as a coach in their ability to perform, or instill the belief that we have now armed them with the information to go and do what they need to do, And if they do what I say they'll do, they'll achieve the results.
What you just said there is going to upset the vast majority of transformation and PTs, coaches around the country now. Just explain that for people, because this is what I love about having this conversation with you. You mentioned there, it's not just about eating less and moving more. And the messaging that a lot of people are getting now on Instagram is it's just all about eating less and moving more, which it's a building block for losing weight. Sure, calories in, calories out, and expenditure versus input. But why, from your perspective, is that not what it's all about?
It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you'll get results. I could drop 2 kilos tomorrow and not eat and be miserable and hate my life and not want to go to work and snap on my kids and things like that. But in order for you to be successful long term, and I think that one of the great analogies that I use and think about and always resonates well with me, if you think about weight loss as a toilet roll and take one sheet at a time, it's eventually going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. If you take 10 sheets off at the start and then it's unsustainable, probably going to go the wrong analogy now, but in terms of if you put too little in and put as maximum as possible out, i.e. too little calories in and expend too much, you're not going to be able to sustain it. You're not going to enjoy your life. If you put too little calories in, your NEAT reduces, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So your day-to-day movement reduces, your ability to exercise reduces, your ability to function in job reduces, and it's not sustainable, and you go back to eat what you used to eat.
Yeah.
And double and triple sometimes. You know, so this whole concept, the idea of weight loss is simple. We know that. It's simple, but it's not easy. In order to lose weight, we need to eat lower calories than we expel. And how we do that is by creating a deficit of massive quantities of exercise versus little input of calories. But that's not going to work. Calories are energy, remember. They're a man-made measurement of energy. The human body or the Krebs cycle doesn't know what a calorie is. But we've put a measurement of energy on a calorie, and when you don't put enough in, you underperform in all aspects of your life. So the testing we do doesn't only just resonate with those that want to lose weight, it's for those that want to gain weight. And the ones that I get most satisfaction out of is those that aren't necessarily concerned about their weight, but they still associate calories with weight. So if you have somebody that's happy at their weight, but they want to get stronger, they want to get leaner, or they just want to generally feel better, when we get them in to trust the process and give them extra calories, we were working at Ignite Fitness in Delgany there a couple of months back. We tested a group of them. One of the girls was like, I don't necessarily really care about weight, so I'm not tracking calories. But she was still, you knew she was afraid to eat. She had in the past lost weight where everything was calorie controlled. And we did our metabolic test, we did our VO2 test, and I set her a target calories. And I was like, you'll lift better, you'll move better, you'll feel better, everything. And we were back there last weekend and she came up to me and said, I've eaten 800 calories more a day. I've slept for the first time in 8 years. My lifts have gone up, my body composition has improved. I'm stronger, I'm leaner, I feel better, my relationships have got better. She's like, I never would have trusted you if I didn't get tested. But she bought into it.
Yeah.
You know, so calories aren't just for weight. Calories are so important for hundreds of functions.
It's interesting because every time I ask you a question about like metabolic health or VO2 or whatever it is, you never give me the answer I expect, which is that it's
Sorry.
like, no, in the way that you would expect to speak to someone like you, would expect you to go to me, yeah, John was in and he's after taking 2 minutes off his marathon time. You've never said that to me. All the stories you give me about people who've improved their quality of life, and that is literally what it's all about. It's obviously there's a place for performance improvement there as well, but it's such a small percentage of what you're passionate about in what you've said to me.
To a degree, like I separate, although the company is one as a whole, I separate metabolic clients than VO2 clients, realistically. A lot of our VO2 clients will be sports performance driven, and I get as much satisfaction off John ringing me and saying, Seán, I took 15 minutes off my marathon time. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, but that process is a slightly longer and the education is a bit different.
But you're also aware that with that 15 minutes, he's done it the right way.
And he's felt better doing it.
And he's felt better doing it, yeah.
So the journey, you are right. So for me, my number one thing with my clients is you have to feel good on this journey.
Yeah.
You know, and I often say, I don't care if you lose weight. Like, if you come to me and you want to lose weight and I make you look better, feel better, move better, you're stronger, you have better relationships, everything that we spoke about, and your weight is slowly coming down, I'm so happy. If you told me you dropped 2 kilos in a week, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
That is not what I want to hear. You know, let's slow it down. And I've had the conversations. So the reel I put up last night was about if you drop 0.1 of a pound, you're successful.
Yeah.
You're creating habits that will consistently deliver results. Consistency is what we want. What I want and what I ask for my clients is that the habits that we create are consistent enough that in a year's time they're still doing them. Because we know that's then going to deliver results. 6 months down the line. Like, are you still making your food this certain way? Are you still changing the way you eat? Are you still training the way I'm asking you to train, and understanding the journey as to why? So I want to educate you. And I make it very clear. People ring me up, can you give me a food plan? No. What's that going to do? Teach you how to read. It's not going to teach you anything other than how to read my prediction of what you should do. That's not arming you with the information. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's the wrong approach. It's not my approach.
Yeah.
If you want a food plan and you want to go to a nutritionist and get a food plan, brilliant. Happy days. It plays a role. And if you need that, that's great. But my ethos and my approach is that I need to educate you to understand why you're choosing to make food this way and how protein plays a role in certain aspects of your life and why your protein levels are too low and how carbohydrate can help with performance and understanding the benefits of consuming good fats and just educate and demyth so much absolute bullshit that's out there at the moment, you know.
Yeah. And not only will you have your results that are sustainable, it won't have been a miserable 6 months or a miserable. It's a lifestyle change.
Yeah, and it also boils down to the fact that we test you with science and the equipment we
numbers,
use is 98% accurate and it delivers. So people get so confident. I had a girl in yesterday and she's doing a marathon on Sunday. She's doing Paris Marathon.
Wow.
She wants to run a sub 3 hour marathon.
Jesus.
And I was thinking, well, what do you want to get from today? She's like, I could see she lacked belief in her ability to deliver a performance on Sunday to the time that she wanted. Now, anyone that's done a sub 3 hour marathon, they know it's a grueling time frame. You need to run sub 4 minutes 17 kilometers for 42 kilometers.
So just say that again. You have to run sub
4 minutes 17
kilometers
per kilometer. Yeah, for 42 kilometers.
For 42 kilometers.
Like you're running, you're sprinting.
Yeah.
And the training to get you there is demanding. And she came in and I just knew straight away, I'd never met her before, but I've got to learn people. I've 12 years testing now. And when I told her results and her ability to perform at the pace that she wanted it, like she was only short of crying with happiness. She was like, you've given me so much confidence. I was doubting I could do this, you know, and we do submaximal testing a lot where people come in race week to test their ability to perform aerobically in a long distance event, which we'll cover shortly and the whole concept of it. But look, I get multiple satisfactions. Off air, Dan asked me, do I still get excited about clients? I get more excited about clients now because of my understanding and development as a coach or as a practitioner within the area of sports performance than I did 12 years ago. Definitely.
That's unbelievable. And that's a lovely segue you have there, because that's exactly why we are doing this episode here together, because your understanding has evolved, it has changed. And you said this to me 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, you have to come on the podcast and say it. We don't say it to me here. So your understanding of aerobic and anaerobic and everything that's surrounds that has evolved, let's say. Yeah,
so my understanding has evolved. Science has evolved as well,
okay.
As it does in all areas. And I'm never one to get stuck in my belief and say, that's it. I'm not open to changing my thoughts on this. This is something that's transitioned over time. And I know we did content with Brian, the guys in Movement 101, maybe even 3 or 4 years ago. And maybe even not that long, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the content that I would have delivered in my statements around this energy system utilization are wrong. So there's still so much wrong out there because of old science, and we still use old science and we still talk about these concepts as black and white, but they're not black and white. And that's what we want to highlight. And when I try and say to somebody that lactic acid doesn't cause anything that you think it causes, they're like, what? Of course it does. Yeah. Lactic acid is the reason I have a pain in my leg. No, it's not. So highlighting that, I go into exercise physiology students and try and tell them this and they nearly fall off the chair.
Yeah.
You know, so we're demything a lot. But when you come to me to get a consultation, I make sure I'm educating you in simplistic terms. And if you look at the reviews on my website, which there's hundreds of them, 5-star, it's all about the breakdown. So you have to walk out of my office knowing what it means rather than going, what's he talking about?
Okay, so I'm in the office, right? Give me the breakdown.
Right.
Anaerobic and aerobic.
Let's look back at traditionally. Okay, so we look at aerobic and anaerobic. In science, when we look at organisms, it means with oxygen and without oxygen. So is that possible for a human?
It's a bit mad because if there's no oxygen, you're dead.
Yeah, okay, so we're talking about energy production. We can't go just like a light switch, black and white, with oxygen, without oxygen. You need to start to think about energy systems as a dimmer switch, where we filter in and out with less or more or less oxygen. So when we're aerobic, we use predominantly oxygen to create energy. And as a result, we're efficient, we're durable, bioproductivity is getting created because of the oxidative tissue or the aerobic tissue is mopping up any byproduct that's getting produced. There's no massive increase in any negative byproducts, and we can sustain it for very, very long periods of time. When we start to produce energy or demand energy at a higher rate, what we're doing is we're demanding more ATP. And we cannot produce that ATP at the rate required just aerobically. So we now start to turn that dimmer switch where we start to use less oxygen and turn more anaerobic, where we start to use glycolysis a lot more, or glycogen or carbohydrate. So we never stop using oxygen. When we do our testing, you can actually see the percentages change. And you could be talking in the difference of a 17-minute test, you could be talking as short as the difference of 1.2 to 1.8% oxygen difference.
Really?
So at the start, they're only using about 1.8 more oxygen than we're at the very end.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a switch that we turn off. Now, that's just an example. That's not everybody's soil, and there can be bigger swings in it.
But it's not, you're not using oxygen anymore.
No, so in the air, there's 20.8% oxygen. We inhale, we exhale. We generally use 4%. So what we blow back out is about 16.8% oxygen. When we are at the end of a test, when somebody is predominantly functioning anaerobically, they're blown out maybe 17.8.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or 18.1.
Yeah.
So the percentage of oxygen utilization has got smaller, but you're still using some oxygen. So what happens when we go anaerobic, we now start to become slightly inefficient. So what's happening is we're starting to, when we start to produce ATP at a higher rate, we produce, and one of the big issues that we produce is an ion, a hydrogen ion. And when hydrogen ions start to build and accumulate, they will start to slow contraction and expansion of muscle down, increasing the risk of injury, cramp, fatigue, delaying the quality recovery time. We also produce massive quantities of CO2. So we exhale more, we ventilate more, we get out of breath. We start to develop oxygen debt. So with the oxygen debt accumulation, with the hydrogen ion accumulation, the best way the body can get us away from these accumulations, which are negative, is going to say, all right, Dan, we're going to start to slow you down.
Yeah.
So is that causing an injury? Is it causing your mind? Is it causing fatigue? Is it causing breath? There's lots of different things. What the body's trying to do is get you back functioning aerobically.
Okay.
So we've got to this point without mentioning this massive word that everybody's hanging on. So everybody in the past would have spoke about lactate.
Where's the lactic acid?
Where's the lactic acid? Lactic acid is the reason. These are lactic acid runs. These are lactic this. Not going to say that lactic acid doesn't exist, but lactic acid isn't the problem. Lactic acid is simply a biomarker that's associated with bioproductivity. So it's like when hydrogen ions are high, lactate is high, and lactate is easy accessible. We're going to be able to pinprick it and access it. So they're directly related. John Mackey, absolute hero in this area. I've learned a lot from John over the last few years. And I remember one thing he's always said to me about the river and the river gauge. The river gauge being high doesn't cause the river to be high. But if the river is high, the river gauge is high. So if we associate that with hydrogen ion or bioproductivity, if bioproductivity is high, lactate is high. Believe it or not, lactate actually gets put back into the Krebs cycle, which is your energy cycle.
Okay.
So that as a product will be utilized as a fuel. It's the ions, the hydrogen ions that cause the issue. When an athlete is under aerobically developed, they don't have this oxidative tissue. They don't have enough aerobic tissue to mop up bioproductivity. And as a result of having too little tissue to accumulate or accommodate, decreasing the negatives associated with this byproduct, they break down very, very quickly. So the accumulation of bioproductivity hits an untrained and under aerobic trained athlete significantly quicker. And this is what starts to differentiate good athletes from bad athletes. Good athletes have good data. It's something I say weekly and I smile every time I say it. If I have a marathon runner that comes in that runs a 2:30 marathon, he has a massive, or she has a massive aerobic capacity, i.e. they're trained aerobically. They're trained, they've quality aerobic tissue in their body. So when byproduct starts to go up, pace goes up, energy production goes up, bioproductivity goes up, but they can deal with it.
Yeah.
Because they're aerobically developed. And this is something I shock people on. And I remember I was out one night recently in Dublin City Centre and I got speaking to an exercise physiology student who was also an avid GAA player. And I tried to speak to him about this concept that he shouldn't just be concentrating on his anaerobic training because he has no aerobic development. But he was like, but why? It's an anaerobic sport. It's not. Thanks to Alana Kelly, who works for me, she done her thesis on this. GAA, there's every 22 seconds there's an anaerobic demand.
Every 22 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay.
So for 38 seconds of every minute, you're aerobic.
Yeah.
Why do you neglect developing aerobic capacity? If you don't have a foundation, your house will fall down. Aerobic development will help every single sport athlete, person in this world in terms of high performance or developing a better performance. If we can increase your body's ability to perform aerobically and create more force and more power production at a less demanding or less negative side effect on the human body, you become a better athlete.
Yeah. And we briefly touched on this before, talking about anaerobic athletes needing an aerobic base as well. But now that's even has evolved, because because we spoke about MMA fighters, we spoke about the whole McGregor thing and gassing out and all that kind of stuff. And even though you had loads of power, the ability to generate or deliver that power diminishes because you don't have an aerobic base. But now that's even more important, because we know that there's this transition period as well. It's not just you switch from one to the other, and it's how long you can go without switching from one to the other.
And I think that's the point that really helps people resonate
Yeah.
and understand. They're like, okay, yeah. So it's not black and white. It's not a light switch, it's a dimmer.
Yeah.
So if I can feed that dimmer more, or I can feed more aerobic power or utilization to develop an aerobic or anaerobic capacity. So it's just the understanding and the tweaking. However, I've said it many times, sometimes aerobic development isn't sexy. People don't want to do it. We call it balaclava runs. You don't want to see people do this stuff.
Yeah, they don't want their mates to see them out running slow.
They don't put it up on Map My Run. They don't put it up on Strava. You don't get these boasts about people look at my time because they don't put it up. I'm not going to call him out, but there's a really, really good runner that I'd be very close with, and he runs a lot, and he posts all these 100-mile weeks done at astronomical pace. If he's listening to this, he's going to know who I'm talking about. And I send him messages saying, what are you doing, chap? Like, where's all these low intensity runs? I don't post them. So you're doing them. Do you promise me you're doing them? Yeah, okay.
Just off the ego runs, yeah.
But that's what it is.
But he is doing them.
He is doing them, because he just done a 2:24 marathon in Dublin. He's doing something well. October last year. The GA touch point. So I don't know if I would have said this last time. No, I haven't. I probably haven't been on the last year. We worked with a GA club last year, and the coach, really forward-thinking exercise physiologist, came in, took over the team, strength and conditioning background, massive qualifications. And their biggest problem was they had too many injuries, and they always faded away in the last 15 minutes of a game.
I'd say 99% of GA teams are like, is he talking about us?
Yeah, okay, so he says, right, Seán, I want you to come in here. We tested the full panel, January, 38 of them. They all bought into it. Some of the boys on the team's aerobic development, aerobic capacity, aerobic function was so poor that they had to walk on these runs. So what we did for 6 weeks, there was no anaerobic training. None. No sprints. No line sprints, no broncos, nothing. Just aerobic development with skill, strength, mindset, tactics, everything like that. And last year, they blew people away in the last 15 minutes of a game and had the lowest quantity of injuries they've ever had in something like 15 years. Because remember, when we're training in an anaerobic state, which we can do, we significantly increase the risk of injury, cramp and fatigue. But resonate on that last point, the fatigue. If every session you do is anaerobic, you're bringing fatigue into the next session. So the quality of the work you do is poor, but the demand on the body is high. And there's a very good chance you're going to break down.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this and you're someone that always picks up injuries, there's a very good chance you're overtrained. You're overtraining. You're always pushing that limit. When you come in and you get tested, we set parameters. I could give you, and I can give you millions of examples, but I'm doing so many tests now, I don't even remember data from yesterday, but I remember certain people's data. And again, someone said, I do all my long runs at 160, turn anaerobic at 149. I was like, well, you have to...
You're talking about heart rate here now for people.
Heart rate, BPM, yeah. So I said, you need to slow down to do... Oh, sure, I couldn't do that. I'm like, why couldn't you? You're running a 5-minute kilometre. You just told me that your best marathon time's at 3:45. That's a 5:17 kilometre. So although the pace that you're running your long stuff is sexy and you're breaking down barriers, you're not getting your PB because you're fatigued at the end. So if you want to run let's say you want to run a 3:30 marathon, you need to run a 5-minute kilometre for 42 kilometres. So why are you doing all your long runs at 4:15s or 4:20s or 4:30s or whatever it is? Because what ends up happening is you run them, that's probably a wild example, maybe even look at 4:40s. If you're running your long stuff too fast, you're not going to sustain it. 26 kilometres in, you could be running 5:30s. And I could list examples of that stuff as well, where people tell me, I'm going to run a sub-share marathon. I'm like, you're not able to do that yet.
Yeah.
Great 3-letter word.
And maybe never if you don't shift the approach to training.
Yes, but I'd never say never. Yet is the best 3-letter word, I believe, as a coach that I can use with all my clients, my family, my kids, anything. Yet it's such a powerful word. We can do anything we want.
Yeah, but you have to be open to it.
Yeah, and you have to be ready to train the way I want you to. So if you don't train the way I want, I know for a fact, it's not me saying you're not going to do this. It's science saying you're going to find it very difficult to do this.
Yeah.
So if we can increase aerobic function, so what happens when we train aerobically within our parameters of our physiology is that we develop aerobic capacity. We increase stroke volume, which is the content of oxygenated blood. We increase aerobic tissue, which is going to mop up that byproduct. We basically increase your body's ability to deliver force, speed, production aerobically. So I can make you a better athlete. I can make you run faster for lower heart rates. And I know I've given you this example before, but anyone that hasn't heard it before, October 21, we 2 girls come into us. They turned anaerobic, or their energy system changeover point turned at 7:22 minute kilometers. So they're running 7:22 kilometers. Within a year, for the same heart rate, they're running 5:22 kilometers.
Wow. Okay, so for people who don't understand, and we've actually had this exact conversation before, but I like it to reiterate this, for people who don't understand that they're running the same heart rate, which means their body is not working as hard, which means they're potentially not hitting that anaerobic threshold, or that, what do we call it now, gradient, curve, as fast. So it gives them so much more room to work with within their body's capabilities. Because if they're at 170, what were they running at?
I don't know what their heart rates were, but
run a 7 minute odd.
So they're running 2 minutes a kilometer faster
at the same heart rate, which gives them so much more headroom, so much more ability to work, so much more ability to recover, so much more ability to perform. It's just all around a better situation to be in.
Yeah, they're like, these are endurance athletes. These are Iron women, Iron men. These are people that want to go for longer. So if we can train you to be aerobically developed, but remember also what aerobic training does, it aids recovery, it aids adaptation, it aids growth.
Yeah.
So if we're always stimulating, we've no growth.
Yeah.
So I always say, in order for profile development to occur, we need stimulation and adaptation. Stimulation being our anaerobic training, adaptation being our aerobic training. Yeah. But we're going to feel better, we're going to move better, we're going to be more productivity, work productivity will go higher. And again, everything that we've listed, I spoke about the energy, it's all related. So if we can decrease the intensity, remember exercise is stress, and I seen the clip that Robbie was talking about the other day. This is something that we don't ever think about. Like, exercise is a stress. And if we're always on that high end of that stress scale, it's not good.
So let me then, because if anybody's listening to like, well, I'm not an elite athlete or a marathon runner or an Iron person, for the average person who maybe run their 5Ks or just want to get fit, maybe put that in context for that person, because what it sounds like you're saying there is, for that average person as well, all of a sudden you're reducing the amount of stress that the exercise you want to do has in your body. So now you can go for your run, you can operate in these environments and move and train, and it's not causing as much stress on your system for a given heart rate, for a given intensity, for a given work rate. So as an average person, listen, why do I care about
Okay, so an average person, listen.
Non-athlete, non-high performing athlete.
Okay, I'll give you
There's no average person.
an example that a lot of people resonate with. I can't run. What do you mean you can't run? I can't run more than a kilometer without breaking down. Because you run too fast. So it's understanding that the journey, if we use the kind of turtle and hare analogy, like if we just go at a lower intensity for longer, we're going to be able to cover more graft. We're going to be able to cover more ground. Most people that start to run, leave the house, take off like an absolute bullet, and within a kilometer they're exhausted, their shins are sore, and they can't walk for a week. If we were to decrease the intensity of that, and you were to go and do 2K at a much lower pace, you're not going to have them negatives associated with that anaerobic energy system, because you're going to be performing aerobically. There is, and I'm not saying anaerobic training is not needed, 100% anaerobic training is needed, but it has to be managed. It's not all about go hard or go home. It's not all about yellow zone, red zone. If your goal is to run 42K, if your goal is to run 5K, the approaches are the same. We have to run a pace that we can hold consistently. I don't want you to run 4 minute kilometers and then run 8 minute kilometers, because you're absolutely exhausted. I want you to consistently perform all the time within a certain parameter. And we get you to the latter stages of your event. I want you sprinting. I want you high-fiving. I want you smiling. I'm going to do the marathon this year for the first time.
This is the first time you've done a marathon?
Yeah, never done a marathon.
What are we, 2:19? What are we aiming for?
No. My coach, Brian Swaby, if he's listening to this, he wants me to race it. I want to go and enjoy it. Look, I run well, I run fast. However, what I've done is I've got tested. I tested myself. Keelan tested me.
Oh, I saw you and Keelan testing
the other day. So I have my parameters now, and I just stay within the zone. Like a lot of people listen to this. Even me, when I go out on a run, I'm like, I'll go out and run 5 minute kilometers Within 3K, I could be running 4-minute 20s.
Okay.
And this is where heart rate training comes in. You set your watch, you have a parameter, you can set it an alarm, you pay more attention to it. But even like yesterday, I was tight on time, so I just did 40-minute run. And I rang people on the treadmill when I was running.
Okay.
And made appointments. Because I was running at such a low intensity that I could talk.
Here's a question for you on that. Treadmill and running outside.
Yeah.
What are the differences?
Don't know.
You don't know?
No.
Fair enough. Because I hate running on a treadmill.
I don't like it.
It's definitely not the same.
No, it's not. I don't like it either. But in certain circumstances, there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah.
Like I'm training for Dublin and I'm going to be away a lot in my training because of work. There is times where I'm going to have to do some training on a treadmill.
Okay.
You know, I would be a massive fan of getting out, getting the vitamin D, sunshine, natural light, air, everything like that. But you can control your pace a lot better on a treadmill.
Yeah.
So I speak about the home trainer for the cyclist or for the triathlete. The turbo, I think, is the best tool a triathlete or cyclist can own.
Because you can really set the tempo, set the pace.
You can control everything.
Dial in the heart rate, yeah.
There's no cars trying to knock you off.
Yeah.
There's no hills.
No traffic lights.
There's no traffic,
wind.
no roundabout. Exactly.
Yeah.
Treadmills, you can replicate the same kind of concept. So some people might find going out to run slow outdoors is very difficult. But you can manage it indoors.
Yeah.
From an impact perspective and your gait and stuff like that, I don't know. I'm going to stay in my own lane here and say...
That's fair. That's why I respect what does come out of your mouth, because I know you don't talk about things you don't know about.
As somebody else, you know. But it's the development. This whole concept, it also takes time.
Yeah.
This isn't something that
I'm out. No. Give it to me now. Give me the pill.
Yeah, this is something that will take, as I say to people, give me 12 weeks.
Okay.
Like 12 weeks?
That's nothing really.
No, 3 months, 3 to 4 months,
Yeah.
you know, before you start to go, wow, I'm running faster. And we can use the same for bike, for rowing, for anything. I'm producing more power. So I'm either running faster, I'm producing more power on the watts, the concept on the rowing machine, whatever it might be, the assault bike. So if we can produce more force for less effort, that's when people get the buy-in. It's like, wow. Keelan, I'm going to use Keelan as an example. So Keelan is diligent in his approach to his training. Have to hand it to him. He tested with me last November, and we had to get him running, I think, and he'll correct me on this one, I think he had to run his long stuff at like 9.5 kilometers an hour, like 6-minute 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
And Keelan's
He's a guard player, yeah.
A guard player, fit lad, you know, but the discipline, he bought into it. We tested him there a few weeks ago. He can now run, I think, sub 5-minute kilometers for the exact same heart rate. You know, and he just, so what the retest has done for him, he's like, lovely, now I have new zones, you know, so small manipulation. But he said, week on week on week, I'd see him on the treadmill, you know, he did a lot of it indoors. And he was like, I'm getting faster. I was like, I know you're getting faster. This is the concept. But then people feed back to me. I get a lot of communication through Instagram at Health Matters IRE. And they tell me this, I'm getting faster. Not that I don't know it, I'm like, brilliant. And they're buoyed on and they get the confidence in it.
Yeah.
But it's the initial concept of slowing down.
Yeah.
And that's what people can't get their head around. What do you mean I have to go slower? You have to go slower to go faster. Train easy to train hard. It's a hashtag I use all the time.
I know, we've said it probably 1,000 times in this podcast and I love it.
Yeah, train easy to train hard.
I should call one of our episodes Train Easy to Train Hard, I think.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So that is where the development comes. So if we understand the science behind the why, then we get a bit more of a buy-in.
Okay.
So we could go much, much deeper in science and people leave scratching their head. But when we break it down into the understanding that we develop aerobic capacity to complement anaerobic function, and if we can delay or increase the body's ability to function aerobically, we will decrease the negatives associated with performing anaerobically.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to prevent breakdown. Most sports will improve when you bring in aerobic training. Here's a great example. Kipchoge, the marathon, who's going to break the 2-hour marathon runner. You know what pace he does long runs at? 4:50s.
Really, yeah?
He runs 2:30s or something, whatever the time difference will be on his thing. He does 3 to 4 high quality speed sessions a week.
And what does a speed session look like for something like that?
So that's an anaerobic session. It could be kilometre repeats, it could be pickups, it could be 400s, it could be 800s.
What's a pickup?
So every kilometre run, you run it faster. So let's say you run 5K and you're doing a 5-minute kilometre, a 4:40, a 4:30, a 4:10, a 3:50.
Jesus.
Faster, or pyramid, up, down.
Okay.
You know, so stimulation. So you're getting yourself used to dealing with these negatives associated with anaerobic performance. So you come into, I would always say, and Aoife Cook, Dublin marathon winner, great girl, really good runner. She always says a marathon's a 20-mile warm-up with a 10K race. I want you sprinting the last 10K.
Jesus.
You know, but look at the other way. Look how many people break down about mile 14, mile 15 in a marathon.
This is a really interesting point that I want to go to here, because I'm going to tell you what my brain is doing at the moment, because I'm not a distance runner, right? I'm a guard player. I ran cross country when I was younger as well. Never really enjoyed it. And most of us who are like me, average person, I'm fit is what I would say, not in a running context, but for my sport.
Test you.
Yeah, test me. I'll be like, I probably won't perform as well as I think I do in my head. But the point I'm going to make here is, when I listen to you talk about marathons and stuff like that, I immediately get the heebie-jeebies, because I know how hard it is when I do a running session with the team or run myself. But I also now know from what you're saying is, I'm every one of my runs is probably the same. I'm trying to do my hardest in each run, so I'm not doing any adaptation and any recovery or
so all you're doing
runs.
is building resistance to fatigue. So you're not improving as an athlete.
Not at all.
So this is the point that resonates with people.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, you do a repeated high intensity run, you don't get faster at it. It just becomes less difficult.
A little bit less difficult.
It's not as sore.
Yeah.
That's not profile development.
So if you take me as a version of the person we spoke about earlier on who says, I can't run. I know I can run from my sport, but I think about a marathon, it's like, I can't do a marathon. But I have the same mindset as that person, because that's going to be too hard for me. I can't do it, because I'll go out and I've got how many kilometers is a marathon? 42 kilometers to run. I've never run more than about 8 or 9 kilometers my entire life. That's when I was running.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't do that. But then you explained about Keelan and how he was diligent with his training, trusted the process, and now he's running faster for the same. I know this physiology. I could do the same thing.
But remember, when he's running faster for the same heart rate, it doesn't mean it's more demanding on his body.
No.
Because what he's done, he's still going to feel the same as he did when he was running 9.5 kilometers an hour or 630 kilometers.
But his capacity
to perform
is way bigger.
Way bigger.
So then, if I'm thinking about it, then I can do a marathon. But it's just about understanding that I need to change the way I'm not just going to try and push myself harder. I'm actually going to understand.
Use the GA athlete as an example. The coaches have them for a very short period of time. I understand why they get line run and broncos and slammed and sprinted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is where the onus on the player comes back. You need to take the bull by the horns. And on the days you're not training, go out for a long, easy run.
Okay, don't say it now, because this is my question, right? And this is a question that nobody likes, and I don't even like asking it sometimes, but I have to ask it because I know I'm going to get asked it after this episode. So take GA, because GA's my sport. Everyone knows this. And this is why I'm cheating here. I'm just using GA as an example. Take GAA, right? And you've got your average training week there. Don't mind pre-season or whatever like that. Take that out of the equation, because that's different for everybody. Without testing, as a GA athlete, in general, this is why I don't like asking this question, because everyone's different. But in general, how should that week, that training block that week or that month be structured?
Like, there has to be at least one low intensity training session, if not two.
In a
minimum in a week.
In a week.
In a week minimum.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at you're probably going 2 training sessions with the club and a match on the weekend.
Yeah, Tuesday, Thursday, and a Saturday or Sunday for most clubs.
They're high intensity, yeah?
Depends. Every now and again, a coach will give you a recovery session, but it's not a low intensity training session. It's a recovery session because you might have done a hard session. It's not like, it's just, we'll go easy on the lads, as opposed to this is a specifically programmed low intensity session.
So like, there's a lot, again, it's very hard to answer the question directly, but you definitely need to do a couple of low intensity training sessions. And remember, and the point that people don't like is they're going to come home from the low intensity sessions and feel guilty probably.
Yeah, because they didn't do enough work.
They didn't push.
Yeah.
But what I want you to do that day is make sure your water's on point, eat more vegetables, get your protein in, get a bit extra sleep, and then the next day, smash your hard sessions. So what you'll start to notice is that there's peaks and troughs. Your delivery of force is better on the days that are needed. You're feeling better on the days that it's lower. You'll start to feel better. There'll be less injuries. You'll be more mobile. You'll be strong. You'll be sleeping better. But it's all about looking at where we need to peak.
Yeah.
I don't need you doing line runs 5 days a week and then you're miserable on the weekend when your match is on.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to perform when we need you to perform. So if the high is high and the low is low, we'll get profile adaptation. If the low is high and the high is not as high as it should be, there's no differentiation. It's just doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Even to the point where if you wanted to jump on a bike, I try and jump on a bike once a week for 40 minutes and do like low intensity. Totally going more off topic. That's where you decrease the risk of all mortality.
Yeah. Was it yellow zone or?
Green zone.
It's actually green zone.
Green or blue.
Green or blue, okay.
Like, people talk about cardiovascular health. Cardiovascular health isn't smashing yourself on a bike erg to do 10 cals.
Yeah.
It's sitting on a bike or low intensity, aerobic based development. And VO2, lots of studies on now from a health marker. If you change your VO2 from a very low to a low level, you've added 5 years onto your life.
Really?
You decrease risk of all cause mortality when you develop cardiovascular health.
What's the number because I heard this a while ago, the number in a week, how many minutes should you be getting of this low level aerobic work in a week?
Is there a number on it?
There was a number, and it was like 140 minutes or
something
like that,
you'd be definitely looking at, I think 130, 140, I've heard it.
Does a walk count?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
But again, it's the guilty aspect of this approach of athletes where we speak about go hard or go home. It's not all about going hard or go home. And it's personal. Like, you can't go hard or go home every day if you want to run a marathon.
Yeah.
But if you want to run 100 meters, it's going to be more prevalent.
It's not even athletes though. I was thinking this the other day, and this wasn't a judgment call at all, because I was looking, there's a few people running around the local park I was walking in, and they were all overweight. And I was like, and I'm a lot more confident with my judgment of this, knowing you now, and I know you'll hopefully back me up on this one as well, because I was looking at them thinking, well, number one, that's probably not good for those people anyway, because they're carrying a lot of extra body mass here, so they're at high risk of injury, but they're probably not going to lose that weight, because and they were like pushing hard, but only pushing hard for maybe a kilometre or two, and then they were done. That was their run. But I'm sure they felt, okay, great, I got my run done. I was like, they probably do much better with an hour walk there.
Yeah, so think about so we measure calorie expenditure during activity as well. So if you will burn more calories at higher intensity.
Yeah.
But they don't all come from fat. Remember, when we're anaerobic, they're glycolytically demanding, i.e. they're from carbohydrate. So let's just use a very simple example. If you were to run at heart rate 160, now I'm making these numbers up for simplistic terms. If you were to run at heart rate 160 for an hour, you get rid of 800 calories. Okay? If you were to run...
And just to give context to people, roughly, that's pushing pretty good pace.
Yeah, I'm just making these parameters up because this is something that, let's just say that's a tough pace.
Yeah.
I'm going around in a roundabout way to describe why it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So let's say you run 160, 800 calories an hour, but you can only do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Or use 600 as a symbol and break it down into a third. So you end up burning 200 calories. But what if I said to you, I want you to run at 130, you'd burn 620 calories. I know, sure, burn more at 160.
Yeah.
But you don't complete it.
Yeah.
So less is more in certain aspects. So if I can get you to go consistently, you're going to complete the time frame. Your calories will come from stored fat. You will burn more calories in general because you'll have been able to complete the session than you would going out and bursting yourself for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you'll burn less calories probably than what you would have if you just went at lower intensity.
Yeah, it's a mindfuck for people, because if you've, again, a lot of these classes, bike cross ski and all that kind of stuff, people feel great, and like obviously there's certain benefits associated with that kind of stuff. I'm not smashing that stuff.
That's something that I want to highlight. Like, I'm not saying that stuff is wrong.
No,
absolutely.
But if your goal is cardiovascular health or weight loss or general wellness, probably better ways to do it.
Something hit home with me about a year ago. What's his name? Peter Attia.
Oh, yes.
I was listening to one of his podcasts, and I was sitting, so my office is in West Park Fitness, 3-story gym, 5,500 members, all day, every day. All I do is listen to weights clattering off the floor. And I went, and this is just my opinion, I think our objective to train is a bit lost now.
Yeah.
Because the boys and the girls that are just weightlifting do no cardiovascular training.
Oh, here's my next question. Damn it, Sean.
So I haven't even looked at that. So are we missing the point in regards to health based on how we train? You know, yeah, we look great with no clothes on when we're lifting weights all the time, but cardiovascularly.
So this is my question. Sorry to cut you off because you're about to answer and I want to ask it first. So I sound like a good podcast host. Same kind of principle, if you look at the vast majority of people in commercial gyms, and again, this is not a judgment thing, it's an observation. They're not the kind of people you would say look better naked or have a better body composition. The vast majority of people in there don't, and you told the story before, you see them and 10 years later you see them and it's the exact same person. And maybe you're like, okay, well, they're maintaining a certain look or body weight or whatever like that. But most people don't go to the gym, in my experience, to stay the same. They go to, in some way, be healthier or look better or feel better or move better. And when you just observe these people, the weights aren't changing, their body composition isn't changing, the movements aren't changing, nothing's changing. So it's just going through the process. So to your point, the whole point is a little bit like, what are we even here for if there's not, and I'm not one of these, everyone has to improve all the time, but you're making the effort to go there because you want to feel better and move better and potentially look better. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. And I don't see any of those things happening for a lot of people. The same way as the person running around and around and around, flogging themselves, is not getting the result that they probably want. So why?
Why? People don't critically evaluate themselves. Like a girl said to me yesterday, and she said something to me, and I said, imagine your daughter said that to you. What would you say? Like, we don't play devil's advocate for ourselves. We don't see that we're going to the gym and doing the same thing week in, week out. And I think a couple of reasons why. Number one, you do feel good when you train. Endorphins are there. You feel great.
Which could be the reason, and if that's the reason,
brilliant.
Crack it out, fair play.
Social aspect.
Yeah.
So West Park Fitness, biggest membership over 65s.
Is it? Yeah.
Aerobics, 80 people in the pool.
It's always hopping when I go over there, yeah. Yeah. The pool, yeah. It's always full of people. Yeah. Older people doing rack aerobics.
Older women. The cafe is packed.
Yeah, it's hopping.
You know what I mean? It's a social thing, which is great. But we get too comfortable.
Yeah.
We're creatures of habit. We don't address what we're doing, why we're doing it, or we don't look at our goal. The question I always ask someone, they come in for a metabolic test. All right, Dan, what do you want to do? I want to lose weight. So are you trying to lose weight or you want to lose weight? What? Are you trying or do you want it? I want it. So you're not trying? No. Brilliant. I love that answer. Because when people come in and go, I'm trying absolutely everything, I can't drop weight. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a bit more difficult journey. But wanting and trying couldn't be two further points apart. And people will always jump on exercise is key to weight loss, when realistically it plays a very, very small role in direct relationship with calorie deficit or creating calorie deficit. You'll break down and you'll burn a relatively small, if we're talking about your Joe Soap here, relatively small amount of calories. If you're going to the gym 6 days a week and you don't know what you're making for your dinner, or you don't have your snacks in, that's your issue.
Yeah.
Take your time to go to the supermarket, walk around, learn your labels, understand calories, get an education, then go and white knuckle to the gym to do a spin class. So I think a lot of the times, obviously the social aspect, the social media and the younger generation drive the weightlifting aspect, the body composition aspect. But I often think they're not fit. They're not healthy. They might look a certain way, but that doesn't mean they're healthy.
I use bodybuilders as an example of this all the time. And again, no shade on bodybuilders. I couldn't do what they do. It's an insane amount of dedication.
Absolutely.
However, they are not the people to look at for health advice.
You know, so I'll give you again another example. A client of mine a few weeks ago, he was 144 kilos. Big person. Big.
Yeah.
And as a result, his VO2 was low.
Muscular or overweight? Muscular guy? Bit of both. Yeah.
His VO2 was low. So VO2 is volume of oxygen per kilogram of body mass.
There's a lot more body mass there.
And I was like, man, your VO2 is like very, very low. And he goes, oh, whatever. He took it on point. And then he was like, yeah, but I can bench 280. And I was like, yeah, but you're also going to significantly increase the risk of death because of your weight. And I was kind of like, what? I'm like, yeah, you need to look at, yes, you might be benching 280.
It's pounds, obviously, not kilos, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever he said, I don't know, whatever he said to me, you know.
It's a lot of kilos.
Yeah, a lot of kilos. But it was like, I think you're missing the point here. You know, we need to get you healthier. Your weight needs to come down. Totally off topic on what you're going on. But yeah, I don't think people direct their training the right way. We get them too comfortable. We don't change it up. We fall into the routine of creating the same weight loss or the same journey of weights. We do them in the same order.
Yeah.
We get to the gym at the same time on the same days. Use my dad as an example. My dad's 72. Over the last few years, he hasn't been as regimental in his work because he's changed jobs. He's a lot more freedom. But for 20 years, he went to the gym Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 6 o'clock. I said to him, why are you doing that? When did you go to the gym at 11 o'clock? What? Nah, I couldn't do that. Now he's in the gym at 11 o'clock. No one's in the place.
Yeah.
He has the whole run of the place. So just we are creatures of habit in that sense. I'd always say, change your programs, look at yourself, get your measurements done, track. And if you have a goal, and your goal is not being hit, you're not being successful. You need to change it.
Yeah. And to pull it back to two of the points you've made earlier on. One, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over, you're not getting the stimulation and you're not getting the adaptation. So you're kind of not getting anything really except for the other potential benefits as we spoke, the feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. What are people leaving on the table if they're weight trainers or strength athletes? And I don't mean like MMA like that. I mean specifically like powerlifters, bodybuilders, weightlifters, and people who generally want to improve their muscularity or whatever in the gym, their strength in the gym. What are they leaving on the table when they're not, apart from the health benefits, when they're not doing aerobic training? Is there performance gains to have there?
Again, this is probably something that I don't know. I don't work with a lot of them. I would more work with your athletes in regards to cardiovascular athletes that will require performance in that aspect. I don't know. It's not going to be a negative.
Yeah.
That's what I do know.
Okay.
That's for sure.
And like, okay, let me change it slightly to maybe more anaerobic running athletes, like sprinters and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I think anything less than 400 meters, not necessarily.
Okay.
Even 200 meters, I think, or something. But like your 800 meter plus, a lot of their training, a lot of professional athletes is lower intensity, because what it's priming you for the days when you need to deliver.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're getting you ready to deliver your optimal performance on the day that it's required.
Okay.
So you're looking at and you're increasing stroke volume. So you're delaying the onset of that anaerobic onset.
Yeah.
You're allowing for adaptation. You're allowing for recovery. You're not overloading. You're not fatiguing consistently. But it's that aerobic development. And even when you look at it, if we can delay that onset, you're going to be a better athlete.
Yeah.
And that's where the MMA and the boxers come in. But like, it's an anaerobic sport, yeah. But if we delay how long it takes you to turn anaerobic, you're going to be able.
5-minute rounds is not necessarily like, it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work,
yeah.
Absolutely. And some of my biggest success stories with the top MMA athletes is bringing in low intensity training or taking them off 14 anaerobic sessions a week.
I hate that.
Absolutely hate it. My hardest job.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
I'm going to pull you back because I'm going to get pulled up. I'm going to pull you back to the guy again because I need to round out that point a little bit there. So I'm using GA as a proxy for the vast majority of people who could play an amateur sport. And if I'm saying I'm a runner or an Ironman, I want to run a marathon, or I'm not associated with a club or anything like that, I can pretty much design my training around the 7 days I have in a week. If you're involved with a sports team, particularly a field sport like GA, rugby, soccer, whatever, or even if you're playing tennis, whatever, usually you're part of a club and there's structured training there. So you've got your Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or whatever it is, Sunday. When you have all the other elements that you need to incorporate, like skill development and tactics and all that kind of stuff, and you do need to do your anaerobic work and your kind of power and strength development and all that, how would you look at structuring a 2-day training week? You've only got 2 days. You've only got an hour and a half on both of those days. Do you still have enough room to do your...
Absolutely. Look, you're looking at a minimum of 40 minutes green zone.
40-minute green zone. Can that be done like with the ball, for example? Can that be, or should it just be steady pace?
I would, like, for a GA athlete, I would encourage them to run laps of the field. So they're in their boots, they're in their environment.
Yeah.
Don't need to go... this will be great for people. As a GA athlete, you do not need to hit a 5K PB.
Yeah. Lads love 5Ks.
You don't need to chase a 5K PB. It does absolutely nothing for your sport.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, if you're below a certain level, yeah.
Nothing's wrong. But you are getting your anaerobic stimulation with your team on the days that your coach is slamming you.
Okay.
So why go and do 5Ks? Not going to do anything. What about looking at bringing in some aerobic development, some good stretching, some mobility work, job done.
Yeah.
And ready for the next day to push hard.
So realistically, what we're looking at then is let the coaches do what the coaches do, and then you might need to do an extra day of super easy stuff.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what I say. So when you're with your club, let your coach look after it, but personal responsibility then takes over. And if you have 2 days a week where you want to go for a light intensity swim, get on the bike for 40 minutes, low intensity, go for a light jog on the pitch, do laps, get one of your mates to come and do it with you. Can you talk the whole time? That's really crucial. Can you hold a conversation? Not saying, yep, yes, Dan.
Okay,
yep.
Yeah.
That's not talking. Can you talk when you run, jog, or can you hum a tune out loud? Use an RPE scale, rate of perceived exertion, no higher than a 5. You finish that run, you feel like you've done nothing. Job done.
So what we need to do actually is change the wording we use, because people would look at that like recovery sessions to adaptation sessions.
Yeah, recovery, adaptation, aerobic.
Yeah.
They'll all be very, very similar along the lines, but we don't have to push.
Yeah.
Like, that's the point. You do not need to come home shattered. And going back off GA temporarily, cyclists, I always give them stick. I always get given out for giving them stick because they deserve it. The amount of people that go
get off the roads,
get on a long cycle and come back absolutely hammered, shattered.
Yeah.
Because one person takes off and they all chase them.
Yeah, and it is the mindset. Like, again, I'm just thinking from a sport perspective here. If you have a player, again, any sport, who's underperforming because of fitness or cardiovascular capability, the first go-to for most management is, we've got to run him harder. You need to be doing extra runs. You've been getting flogged. And actually, that's probably, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen it work. Now that I think about it, I've never seen it work.
Yeah, because the development, in theory, what they're looking for makes sense, but the development that's needed is not that approach.
Yeah. Or if you have a team or an athlete that underperforms in a game and they get to, because you're not fit enough, the next kind of few weeks
You're slammed.
And all of a sudden you're really underperforming and you lose the next few games in the
You're injured and you're fatigued.
Yeah.
And to bring it back, I said 40 minutes minimum. For someone that's only starting out, you don't need to do 40 minutes.
Could that be 40 minutes over the week? Could it be 2 20-minute sessions?
No, like realistically, to get massive aerobic benefits, you would aim to do a 40-minute session consistently.
Okay.
But if you're only starting out and you can do 2 minutes, the next week 3, 4, 5, no problem. Develop it. Don't feel bad about it.
So, very unscientific approach. I'm no testing, of no heart rate monitor. I'm going out and 40 minutes is on the clock and whatever I can comfortably do.
Don't chase distance, chase time.
So I know I'm running for 40 minutes and if I finish and I'm like, oh, that was okay.
Run 20 minutes away from your house.
I want
20 minutes back.
Yeah.
Or if you want to start, do 10s. 10 out, 10 back. 5 out, 5 back.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do.
Time though.
If this is something that you want to give it a go out. Can you hold a conversation? When you come home, you are not tired.
Yeah.
Deal with the pace. Don't be afraid to post it. Those that are starting out on a journey, you might need to post it. Stay off social media if it helps you achieve your run. But it's about understanding that the development of your engine needs to be done electric rather than petrol.
Yeah.
In terms of, we want you to be able to become a hybrid. We want you to be able to become more efficient. We want to increase your ability to deliver force with less increase in byproductivity.
Okay.
And that's aerobic development.
Yeah. I love it. And just before I let you go, with this shift now from not a black or white, flick the switch, aerobic, anaerobic, what has changed in your approach to how you speak to people and athletes and things like that in the job that you do?
So I would have said with and without oxygen.
Okay.
But like me looking back now going, sure, how did I not cop that?
Yeah.
Like you can't, it's not without oxygen. And it's too black and white to say this is this. And it's too black and white as well to say you're burning fat, you're burning carbohydrate. Or getting real sciencey just for temporary, we measure something that's called RER values, recipe exchange ratio. And in theory, based on science, when you're below 0.8, you're 100% fat. And when you're above 1, you're 100% carbs. It can't be that black and white. Like it just can't. We're humans.
Yeah.
So there's always a mixture. And in certain aspects of performance, there is obviously mixtures of fueling types and things like that. But it's just how my approach has changed over the years is trying to get people away from saying lactic acid is the reason my leg is sore. No, it's not, Tom. You know, the reason your leg is sore is because you've done 7 anaerobic sessions in the last week.
God damn it, Tom. You're not listening to the last podcast, man.
But the likes of that stuff. So my approach now is when you come in, you do your results with me. We give you VO2, we look at your heart rate, we look at your recovery. And then I make this statement to most people. If you forget absolutely everything I say, give me attention for 10 minutes. So you understand your training zones and you understand your energy systems, but you understand the why. You have to understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Why are you going out and doing a long run? I don't know. Why are you doing short run? Don't know.
Because running gets you fitter, man.
Yeah. But that concept, I'm like often, I'm not an athlete. I'm not that. I'm not that. Yes, you are. When you're in my office, you're an athlete, regardless of who you might think you are. I speak to you in order to make you a better athlete. And people always say, I'm not an athlete. Look, Mary, just take it. You're an athlete today, and I'm going to make you a better athlete by applying what we know is facts based on science, but developing science, continuous progressive development. If I was still talking when I was talking 12 years ago, I think I'd be broke and out of business. But I'm learning. I'm constantly learning and learning off the likes of my peers like John Mackey. I always love sitting down and talking to John. The likes of talking to Owen, John Connors, all the lads, you know what I mean? Always just shooting the breeze and talking to people. Peter Attia, listening to his podcast. There's always, science is always going to be developing.
Yeah.
I have to be open, and I think everyone has to be open to being susceptible to change in how I deliver my services and what I learn, and I send it on to my staff when I listen to podcasts, and they're probably like, oh, here we go. I send them and I'm saying, look, I need you to listen to this over the next week, because the way we're delivering results is going to bring this in. And understanding what oxygen utilization means and understanding how we can change the body's deliverance of force and recovery and perform. At the end of the day, I'm performance driven. We know performance can be many aspects: how we feel, how we move, work, results for athletes.
Yeah.
And I'm judged on that at the end of the day. And I know what I say works, but it takes time.
With your 12-year birthday coming up,
yes,
what is the biggest shift you've seen in training and performance in the last 12 years?
There's more of it.
There's more of it.
A lot more. So it's wild.
Just more information, more research,
more people.
More people.
Everybody's doing it. It's great. The shift in health and wellness at the moment is phenomenal.
Where do you think that's come from?
I think COVID massively helped, believe it or not, which is quite a controversial thing because it rose the awareness to health. I think there's a lot of really good people within the area of health and wellness promoting the benefits of, i.e., 20, 30 minutes a day will decrease the risk of all mortality by 5 years.
Yeah.
Like mind-blowing stuff. Like it's just crazy. The biggest shift, I don't know, there's obviously trends come and go in many things, but the basics and the principles and the foundations always win. There's no quick fix.
Yeah.
And doing the right stuff consistently will deliver results. Not looking for a button that you stick in your nose and hope it shreds belly fat in the evening time because of the temperature is working at a certain rate. It's not going to work. You know, the reliance on supplements, the reliance on special trainers, vibrate machines, belts, they don't work. What works is consistency and step-by-step changing your habits day in, day out and delivering. It's not a change, I suppose, but results are achieved when that stuff is delivered consistently. There's lots of people that want quick wins, and quick wins can be achieved, but quick wins are always going to break.
Yeah. And there's lots of people who are willing to sell quick wins online. So it's why it can get confusing for people sometimes.
Yeah.
Because consistent hard work is difficult and it's not nice.
Consistent work. I wouldn't say consistent hard work.
That's a good point, actually, yeah. Consistent work, yeah.
Like if you consistently work to develop and changing your habits, use weight loss as an example. I don't want you to give up crisps. Just have a pack of skips rather than prawn cocktail tail. Just save 700 calories. Yeah. But in 6 months' time, are you still making that decision?
Yeah, you probably don't want to eat them after 6 months' time.
You might. Skips are nice.
They're nice, yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is you feel so much better. The decisions just become much easier for you because you know how good you can feel.
Exactly. So it's not just rushing the decisions and understanding that it's a journey that takes time.
Yeah.
That definitely doesn't answer the question, but however.
It doesn't really matter, man.
What's the question?
The question was one big thing you've seen shift over the last 12 years that just stands out to you in terms of 12 years ago we did it this way. I don't mean you specifically, I just mean the industry or the conversation was around this, and 12 years later.
Do you know what? Probably, and although I criticise it to a degree, I think the shift more towards weightlifting for all sexes and all goals. So weight training predominantly male-driven, egotistic, I look great in the mirror, take my picture, to now understanding that you're going to feel better, you're going to move better, you're going to look better, you're going to achieve better results by bringing in that. So when I started in Westpark, there was a female-only gym in one area of it.
And what was in there?
It was just
TheraBands and
vibrating plates and stimulating machines. And now people still want it, but the concept is that it's people understand the journey with weight training.
Yeah.
Probably off topic on completely what I do, but it's just an awareness of what I'm in. And then also there's a lot more tracking devices and parameters, but they're dangerous. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, we actually spoke about that before. Yeah, and it's, anytime someone asks me, is this good? I just give them the answer you gave me. Is like, well, all the algorithms are different. They don't really mean anything in isolation. People are designing their entire lives around these devices. Sometimes they can be worse. Yeah. I saw someone put it up there before I came on here on a story, like it's giving them their anxiety or their stress rating on their Whoop band. Like, that's going to give you fucking anxiety, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this stuff is not necessarily useful when you're not even doing the basics right.
But it's so generalized.
And it's really general, yeah.
Like, I can't, like my zone as an example.
Yeah.
Like they're using formulas, they're using algorithms or Garmin's or Wahoo's or Polars, where they're using a standard algorithm that may work for one or two people.
Yeah.
I'm always in the red. I can never get into the green. I'm always in the blue. Stop using predicted algorithms. My VO2 says this. I was out injured for a year. My VO2 was a 63. I'm back running since Christmas Day. My VO2 was a 59 on my watch. I tested the other day and it was a 60, which was pretty close. But I've seen people come in and go, I got a 62 on my watch. And I go, you got a 47 there, but I don't believe that. Like, so you believe a watch that's on your arm, but you don't need to believe me that's connected to your lungs.
Yeah.
You know, like, again, we're just missing the idea. But wearables can be good as well. They get us moving, you know what I mean? Like this whole 10,000 step calorie or 10,000 steps a day. There's no proof on that whatsoever, but it gets people moving.
Exactly, yeah. And most people are probably doing 2,000 or 3,000 steps. So if it gets them to 10, fine.
Brilliant.
But it's not a gold standard for anything. No, it's not a magical weight loss tool.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Principles, as always. Seán, that's probably about 65, 66 minutes there. I was going to do this in 40 minutes, but we're way over. Thank you so much. As always, congratulations on 12 years.
Thank you.
Anything special coming up in the next little while we should be aware of?
Obviously, we've mentioned about the sports nutrition online. So I believe that sports performance nutrition is one of the biggest neglected aspects of performance in Ireland.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people doing it. You met one of them recently, really high profile, but there's not a lot of other people doing it. And with the quantity of data that we gather, I think it can make people different, online stuff. And then I have developed software which will be released shortly enough that will be a solution to many heartaches for nutritional therapists and functional medicine doctors. So it's going to be a software called My Nutritool, a Health Matters solution. So really excited for what the future holds. But 12 years, month on month, we're growing. Staff is growing. I've never been happier. So long may it continue.
Unbelievable. And every time we do a podcast together, I get loads of questions about people saying, can I do this? Is this something I can do? This is for everybody. This is literally, we've just spoken about how many benefits there are to going down the route of either metabolic or VO2 or just understanding more about your physiology. So yeah, it's for
everyone. Look, VO2 traditionally aimed at professional athletes, but what we've done over the last 12 years is made it significantly more accessible. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be at the peak fitness. You come in, you get a parameter, it's a mark in the sand, it's test one. And if you want to go and better yourself, you go and apply what we say and we reassess it.
Yeah.
If you want to get a control of metabolic function, you want to get a control of how your heart rate elevates, what your lung function's like. There's so many parameters within our screening that absolutely everybody can benefit. You mightn't want to use heart rate zones, but you might want to go and apply your own theory and then come back in 6 months' time and go, okay, I'm down 2 stone. Like I could list endless amounts of success stories based on people saying that the accountability or the confidence or the ability for me to break it down and them to be able to retest day 1 and 6 months later. So it's available for everybody. We are busy though. I work 6 days a week. I work a lot of 7-day weeks. We do evening appointments. We do weekends. But if you want a 6 o'clock on a Tuesday and you're not flexible, you could at the moment, and I'm not lying when I say this, be waiting 8 weeks. Like we're busy. But if you're flexible, we'll get you in. We travel the country. So like last week I was in Galway, on Saturday I'm going to Clare, in 2 weeks I'm going to Limerick, we're going to clubs. So we can bring our testing to anybody in the country if there's a group. But if you did want to come to me, West Park Fitness in Tala, we're there 6 days a week, free parking on site, free access to the share and change facilities. That's home. They were my day ones. 6th of April 2011 was day one in there. So,
and shout out to the goat Biscoff protein oats that we get in the morning times we do our shoots. Unbelievable gear.
Tag them on this.
I'll tag them in this. We get a big shout out there. I think the most important thing you said that I want to double down on is you don't wait until you're fit enough to do the test. Don't be scared of the test. I actually haven't done a test with you yet, but I've done many VO2s in a previous life, but don't be afraid. You do not have to be an elite athlete. You don't have to be in any particular condition. It is 1 point of data for you that you can then build on. So a lot of resistance I find with people is like, oh, I'm not fit enough to do that. I couldn't do it. I'd be embarrassed to do that. I'm sure you've seen the whole range of scores from people who can barely walk to super elite athletes.
Absolutely. I've seen it all. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ego is a lot though. Ego plays a lot.
Huge.
And people don't want to be told they're not as good as they were.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick on a GA athlete. Last week, he was obnoxious is the only way to say it. He thought he was amazing. He scored a 41 or something and was devastated. But all he does is red zone training 7 days a week.
Yeah, flogging himself. Yeah. So he tells himself this is working, but the data would not support that.
He was shocked. He was blown away by it, But you don't, going back to the point, you don't have to be at your fittest. Coming to me at your fittest point is only to say, job done, I'm great.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's important. But if you want to train better, you get it done at your worst point. We do a program, perfect timing. Anyone doing Dublin Marathon this year, 20 weeks to a better marathon. We do 2 VO2 tests, 2 running schedules, a workshop with Brian in Movement 101 and a performance nutrition workshop. So we get you at your lowest point. 10 weeks later, we reassess and we manipulate your data based off that then. That type of thing.
I love it, man. It's brilliant. Seán, always a pleasure. This is actually a short conversation for us because it's usually 3 or 4 hours deep, but thank you so much for coming on again.
No Thank you very much.
People want to find you at Health Matters.
IRE.
So
Instagram, very strong. Thanks to Dan, the man here in front of me.
All I do is point the camera. You come up with the content.
Yeah, so we do a lot of education reels on Instagram, a lot of engaging content on that. So get us at Health Matters IRE. myhealthmatters.ie is our website as well. So either or.
And the book of tests through the website.
Book of tests, easiest thing to do is send me an email, Seán@myhealthmatters.ie, and I'll just get on to you. If you're sending me an email, include your number because I'm just going to ask you for your number.
Yeah.
Or go onto the website and do the contact us form there.
And the mad thing is, even though you're so fucking crazy busy, it's still you on the other end of the phone and email. So people will actually be talking to you, which is crazy.
It is. It's funny. Someone who was listening to your podcast that I was on recently, and he had sent me an email the night before. He listened to half it, and then he was in the car, and I rang him, and I came to his speaker, and he was like, Seán. I rang him live when he was listening to the podcast. So I'll do all the calls. If you're looking for a test, if you want to speak to me, if you want to ask me a question, I'm very, very open. And like when you follow me on Instagram, you'll get an outbound message directly from me telling you that if you want to ask me a question, just get on to me. So I've no problem helping anybody else out. People say I'm too generous with my time in certain circumstances, but look, I'm happy to help you if you want some advice.
I love it. And I can also vouch, your team is absolutely fantastic as well. Keenan and Lana, anyone I've ever met have been absolutely fantastic too. So the whole crew of you in there.
Yeah, no, look, it takes time to find good staff, and I'm blessed with them now. It only took me 12 years to get a couple, but it's been a worthwhile journey.
No, fair play. Seán, it's a pleasure always to have you on. It's a pleasure to be working with you, to be watching the journey, and here's to another 12 years
Absolutely,
of mad success.
Thank you very much.
Peace. Folks, that is us. Another episode in the bag. I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you again to my friend, Mr. Seán Kinane. When I stop and reflect sometimes about the podcast, it is crazy to think that there are literally thousands of you out there listening to these conversations and hopefully using the information to empower yourself and improve your lives in some way. And I am eternally grateful that I get the opportunity to sit down and have these conversations with people, because it is so fulfilling for me. I would really appreciate if you could take 20 seconds to jump on whatever platform you're listening on, especially Apple or Spotify, and leave a rating or a review for this podcast. It is so helpful and helps me reach even more people with these podcasts and continue on the journey. If you ever want to reach out and discuss anything you hear in these podcasts, or if you want to start your own podcast and you're looking for someone to help, please feel free to drop me a message on Instagram at PrymalPro, PRYMALPRO. I am always happy to hear from you. Have yourselves a great week, and I'll see you in the next one.